Question 1. If your vehicle is leaking a hazardous material, what action should you avoid taking? A. Trying to stop the leak using available tools. B. Moving the vehicle slowly to prevent further leakage. C. Requesting assistance from nearby motorists. D. Any more than safety requires. The correct answer is D. Any more than safety requires. If a hazardous material is leaking from your vehicle, you should not move the vehicle more than necessary to ensure safety. This prevents further dispersion of the material and minimizes potential risks to both you and others on the road. Question 2. For which item is loading into closed cargo spaces allowed only if packaged in fire water-resistant materials and covered with a fire water-resistant tarp? A. Flammable liquids. B. Radioactive materials. C. Explosives. D. Oxidizers. The correct answer is A. Flammable liquids. Flammable liquids should only be loaded into closed cargo spaces if they are packaged in fire water-resistant materials and covered with a fire water-resistant tarp. This safety measure is crucial to reduce the risk of fire or explosion during transportation. Flammable liquids can ignite easily, and in the event of a fire, the fire water-resistant packaging and tarp help to contain and prevent the spread of flames and potentially hazardous liquids. Question 3. When refueling a vehicle displaying hazardous materials placards, where should a person be positioned? A. At the nozzle controlling the fuel flow. B. At a distance observing the operation. C. At the pump's payment terminal. D. Inside the vehicle's cabin. The correct answer is A. At the nozzle controlling the fuel flow. During the refueling process of a placarded vehicle, it's crucial to have someone present at the nozzle controlling the fuel flow. This person can promptly stop the fueling process in case of an emergency, ensuring the safety of both the vehicle and its hazardous materials cargo. Question 4. On the hazardous materials table, what column shows the hazard warning labels shippers must put on packages of hazardous materials? A. Column 6, B. Column 1, C. Column 4, D. Column 5. The correct answer is A. Column 6. Column 6 identifies hazard warning labels with specific codes for shipping hazardous materials. Some products require use of more than one label due to more than one hazard being present. Question 5. What kind of pressure is applied when utilizing parking or emergency brakes? A. Hydraulic pressure. B. Air pressure. C. Friction pressure. D. Spring pressure. The correct answer is D. Spring pressure. When engaging parking or emergency brakes, the pressure is exerted using spring mechanisms, allowing the brakes to engage and hold the vehicle stationary even if hydraulic or air pressure is lost. Question 6. If the term prohibited is noted or typed in the hazard class column of any entry within the hazardous materials table, what is the appropriate course of action? A. The product can be transported with additional precautions. B. The product must never be transported. C. The product should be transported during daylight hours only. D. The product can be transported with proper ventilation. The correct answer is B. The product must never be transported. If the term prohibited is present in the hazard class column of an entry in the hazardous materials table, it signifies that the product must never be transported due to its high level of danger or risks associated with it. Question 7. When transporting 2,000 pounds of phosphoric acid, how far should you avoid parking from the traveled portion of the highway, except during normal operations for a brief period? A. 100 feet. B. 200 feet. C. 300 feet. D. 500 feet. The correct answer is C. 300 feet. When hauling 2,000 pounds of phosphoric acid, you must not park your vehicle within 300 feet of the traveled portion of the highway, except when it is necessary for normal operations during a brief period. This safety requirement is essential to prevent any potential hazards or accidents on the road, as phosphoric acid is a hazardous material that can pose risks to public safety if not handled properly. Question 8. What information is conveyed by the transport index of a radioactive material? A. The radioactive material's expiration date. B. The degree of control needed during transportation. C. The origin and destination of the material. D. The material's radioactivity level. The correct answer is B. The degree of control needed during transportation. The transport index of a radioactive material indicates the necessary level of control and precautions required while transporting the material based on its radioactivity level. This helps ensure safe handling and transportation of radioactive substances. Question 9. Is it accurate that the driver must immediately clean up any leaking hazardous material they come across? A. True. B. False. C. Partially true. D. sometimes true. The correct answer is B, false. No, the statement is not true. If a driver discovers leaking hazardous material, they should not immediately attempt to clean it up. Instead, they should follow proper procedures, such as notifying authorities, taking safety precautions, and waiting for trained personnel to handle the cleanup to prevent potential risks and hazards. Question 10. What information is provided for each item description on a shipping paper? A. The shipping method for the item. B. The quantity of the item being shipped. C. The materials hazard class of the item. D. The destination address for the item. The correct answer is C. The materials hazard class of the item. On a shipping paper, each item description includes the materials hazard class of the item being shipped. The hazard class categorizes the material based on its potential risks and hazards during transportation. This information is vital for ensuring proper handling, storage, and transportation of hazardous materials, as it helps individuals involved in the shipping process to understand the potential dangers and take appropriate safety measures. The shipping paper serves as a crucial document for authorities and those handling the materials to ensure compliance with regulations and protect public safety. Question 11. Is it accurate that you should not stack nitric acid in heights exceeding 2 feet during loading? A. True. B. False. C. Partially true. D. Sometimes true. The correct answer is A. True. Yes, it is true that stacking nitric acid beyond a height of 2 feet during loading is not recommended. Proper storage and handling practices for hazardous materials like nitric acid help prevent spills, leaks, and potential hazards associated with improper stacking or handling. Question 12. What is the maximum distance you are allowed to park a vehicle carrying hazardous materials from an open fire? A. 100 feet. B. 200 feet. C. 300 feet. D. 500 feet. The correct answer is C. 300 feet. Vehicles transporting hazardous materials must be parked at a distance of no more than 300 feet from an open fire to ensure safety and minimize the risk of fire or explosion related to the hazardous materials. Question 13. While inspecting a vehicle carrying hazardous cargo, where should the shipping papers be placed to ensure visibility? A. Inside the glove compartment. B. On the dashboard, visible through the windshield. C. Under the driver's seat, easily accessible. D. In the side door pocket, within reach of the driver. The correct answer is B. On the dashboard, visible through the windshield. When inspecting a vehicle carrying hazardous cargo, the shipping papers must be placed on the dashboard where they are clearly visible through the windshield. This placement ensures that relevant authorities, such as law enforcement or inspectors, can easily verify the nature of the cargo being transported and check for compliance with hazardous materials regulations. Question 14. What must be included in the written instructions for a driver to transfer Class A and B explosives? A. The driver's contact information and driving history. B. The vehicle's registration and insurance details. C. The emergency response procedures and contact information. D. The handling and storage instructions for the explosives. The correct answer is C. The emergency response procedures and contact information. When transferring Class A and B explosives, the written instructions provided to the driver must include the emergency response procedures and contact information. Class A and B explosives are highly hazardous materials, and it is crucial to be prepared for any potential emergencies or accidents that may occur during transportation. By having clear instructions and emergency contact details readily available, the driver and relevant authorities can quickly respond to and manage any hazardous situations. These written instructions play a vital role in ensuring the safe handling, transportation, and containment of explosives, helping to protect public safety and minimize risks associated with these materials. Question 15. Classify battery acid under the appropriate hazardous material class or division. A. Class 2, gases. B. Class 5, oxidizers. C. Class 8, corrosive materials. D. Class 9, miscellaneous hazardous materials. The correct answer is C. Class 8, corrosive materials. Battery acid is classified under Class 8, corrosive materials. It is a highly corrosive substance that can cause severe damage to skin, eyes, and other materials upon contact. Class 8 includes substances that have corrosive properties and can cause harm through chemical reactions. Battery acid's corrosive nature places it under Class 8 in the hazardous materials classification system. Question 16. Which of these is the primary entry to be recorded first on the shipping documents? A. The proper shipping name. B. The UN identification number. C. The emergency contact details. D. The recipient's address. The correct answer is A. The proper shipping name. The initial entry on shipping papers should be the proper shipping name of the hazardous material being transported. This name provides crucial information about the nature of the material and ensures accurate communication of its identity. Question 17. Who determines a product's hazard class and packing group? A. Carrier. B. Driver. C. Receiver. D. Shipper. The correct answer is D. Shipper. The shipper also determines the product's ID number before sending from one place to another. Even though it is the shipper's responsibility to determine product's ID number, the driver and receiver must also confirm all information is correct. Question 18. What statement is not correct regarding placard placement? A. A total of 2 placards must appear on each side of the vehicle. B. Words and numbers placards need to be level and read from left to right. C. Kept clear of attachments or devices such as ladders or doors. D. Must be 3 inches away from any other markings. The correct answer is A. A total of 2 placards must appear on each side of the vehicle. Most often, 4 placards are required for a hazardous material shipment. A placard must appear on each side of the vehicle and must also appear on the front and back of the vehicle. The shipper is required to supply the driver with the placards with the required identification numbers. Question 19. Classify gasoline under the appropriate hazardous material class or division. A. Class 1. Explosives. B. Class 2. Gases. C. Class 3. Flammable liquids. D. Class 6. Toxic substances. The correct answer is C. Class 3. Flammable liquids. Gasoline falls under Class 3. Flammable liquids. It is highly flammable and poses a significant fire hazard. Class 3 includes liquids with a flash point below 60.5 degrees Celsius, 141 degrees Fahrenheit, and a boiling point at or above 35 degrees Celsius, 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Gasoline's properties make it a Class 3 hazardous material during transportation. Question 20. When your vehicle is loaded with Class A explosive materials, where is parking permitted for the vehicle? A. Any designated parking spot. B. In a designated truck stop area. C. Only in approved explosive materials storage facilities. D. Parking is strictly prohibited for vehicles carrying Class A explosives. The correct answer is B. Parking is strictly prohibited for vehicles carrying Class A explosives. When your vehicle is loaded with Class A explosive materials, parking is strictly prohibited. Class A explosives are the most hazardous type of explosive materials, and their transportation demands the highest level of safety and security measures. Stopping or parking the vehicle in any location other than approved explosive materials storage facilities poses significant risks and dangers to public safety, property, and the environment. Therefore, it is crucial to strictly adhere to the prohibition on parking when transporting Class A explosive materials. Question 21. When the driver is not behind the wheel, where should shipping and emergency response papers be kept? A. Glove box. B. On the dash. C. Driver's door pouch or on the driver's seat. D. Middle console. The correct answer is C. Driver's door pouch or on the driver's seat. Hazardous material and shipping papers should be easily distinguished from other paperwork and must be easily recognized. In the event the driver becomes unconscious, it is important that emergency personnel can access emergency information quickly and easily. Question 22. What are the dimensions of a hazardous materials placard? A. 8 inches by 8 inches. B. 10 inches by 10 inches. C. 12 inches by 12 inches. D. 14 inches by 14 inches. The correct answer is C. 12 inches by 12 inches. A hazardous materials placard typically measures 12 inches by 12 inches in size. Placards are displayed on vehicles transporting hazardous materials to alert the public, emergency responders, and other drivers about the presence of hazardous materials and the associated risks. The standardized size ensures that the placards are easily visible and recognizable, helping to improve safety and proper handling during transportation. Question 23. Out of the 3 available lists used by drivers, shippers, and carriers to determine whether a substance falls under regulated products, which one is included? A. Inventory of controlled substances. B. List of prohibited goods. C. Register of dangerous materials. D. List of hazardous substances and reportable quantities. The correct answer is D. List of hazardous substances and reportable quantities. One of the 3 lists utilized to identify regulated materials is the List of hazardous substances and reportable quantities. This assists in recognizing materials subject to hazardous materials regulations and reporting requirements. Question 24. Is it correct that a written route plan is required when transporting Division 1.1 explosives? A. True. B. False. C. Sometimes true. D. Partially true. The correct answer is A. True. Yes, it is true that when transporting Division 1.1 explosives, a written route plan is mandatory. This plan helps ensure that the transportation process is carefully planned and follows the safest route possible to minimize risks associated with transporting hazardous materials. Question 25. Identify the correct hazardous material class or division for white phosphorus. A. Class 1, explosives. B. Class 3, flammable liquids. C. Class 4, flammable solids. D. Class 6, toxic substances. The correct answer is C. Class 4, flammable solids. White phosphorus belongs to Class 4, flammable solids. It is a pyrophoric material, meaning it ignites spontaneously in air at or below room temperature. Due to its flammable properties, it is classified under Class 4 in the Hazardous Materials Classification System. Question 26. An AW on the hazardous material table means A. The material has no restrictions. B. The material must be shipped by water. C. The material is only restricted when shipped by and/or water. D. The material has no restrictions when transported by air. The correct answer is C. The material is only restricted when shipped by and/or water. The letter A is used for hazardous material that pose a health and physical hazard or a harm to the environment. The letter W is used when restrictions are only applicable when transported by vessel or water. Question 27. What does it signify if the word forbidden appears in the hazardous materials class column of an entry in the hazardous materials table? A. The material is allowed for transportation under specific conditions. B. The material is prohibited for transportation under any circumstances. C. The material can be transported without any restrictions or regulations. D. The material is allowed for transportation but requires special handling. The correct answer is B. The material is prohibited for transportation under any circumstances. If the word forbidden appears in the hazardous materials class column of an entry in the hazardous materials table, it means that the material is strictly prohibited for transportation under any circumstances. This indicates that the material is considered too hazardous or dangerous to be transported safely, and it is not allowed to be shipped by any means of transport. Question 28. What is the appropriate approach for handling railroad crossings if your vehicle is placarded? A. Slow down and proceed with caution without stopping. B. Come to a complete stop and wait for the railroad signal to turn green. C. Speed up to clear the railroad crossing quickly. D. Always change lanes before crossing the railroad tracks. The correct answer is A. Slow down and proceed with caution without stopping. When your vehicle is placarded, indicating that it is transporting hazardous materials, the appropriate way to handle railroad crossings is to slow down and proceed with caution without stopping, if it is safe to do so. Stopping on railroad tracks is extremely dangerous, especially if your vehicle carries hazardous materials. Instead, maintain a slow and steady pace while crossing the tracks, ensuring there is enough space between your vehicle and the tracks to avoid any potential incidents or collisions. Question 29. What is true about a portable tank? A. It cannot be removed from a vehicle. B. It is made to be more durable than other tanks. C. It can be removed from a vehicle. D. It is usually smaller than other tanks. The correct answer is C. It can be removed from a vehicle. Products are loaded and unloaded while a portable tank is off a vehicle. After the vehicle is loaded and unloaded, it is then attached to the vehicle for transportation. Question 30. Federal regulations require that hazardous material employers train their employees at least once every blank. A. 180 days. B. 5 years. C. 1 year. D. 3 years. The correct answer is D. 3 years. Continued training is important to keep employees up to date and refresh information. Training must include familiarization, function-specific, safety, security awareness, in-depth security training, and driver training. Question 31. When transporting chlorine, how much of it in gallons requires you to stop before crossing a railroad grade? A. More than 50 gallons. B. Any amount. C. Over 100 gallons. D. Less than 25 gallons. The correct answer is B. Any amount. No matter the quantity, if you're carrying chlorine, it's essential to stop before crossing a railroad grade. This precaution is necessary due to the hazardous nature of chlorine, ensuring safety for both the driver and others on the road. Question 32. What kind of tank is used to carry liquids and gases and include appurtenances, reinforcements, fittings, and closures? A. Vessel. B. Barge. C. Cargo. D. Fabricated. The correct answer is C. Cargo. Even though cargo tanks mainly transport liquids and gases, they may also be used for a solid. A cargo tank attached to a motor vehicle is loaded or unloaded without being removed from the vehicle. Question 33. What action is required when the shipping papers contain the phrase inhalation hazard? A. Use poison placards along with any other required placards. B. Use hazard-specific placards required by the product. C. Ignore the shipping papers and follow standard placarding. D. Remove all placards from the shipment. The correct answer is A. Use poison placards along with any other required placards. When the shipping papers indicate inhalation hazard, it is mandatory to use poison placards in addition to any other placards required by the specific product being transported. Inhalation hazard refers to the potential risk of inhaling harmful substances from the hazardous materials, and using the appropriate placards helps communicate this danger to others on the road and emergency responders. Employing poison placards, in conjunction with other necessary placards, ensures that the hazardous nature of the cargo is adequately conveyed and helps maintain safety standards during transportation. This practice is essential for compliance with regulations and the safe handling of hazardous materials. Question 34. Which signals can be employed to alert others of a stationary vehicle carrying flammable liquid? A. Horn honking and flashing hazard lights. B. Using hand signals and waving a flag. C. Turning on the high beams and tail lights. D. Activating the windshield wipers and headlights. The correct answer is A. Horn honking and flashing hazard lights. When a vehicle carrying flammable liquid is stopped, it is crucial to warn others to prevent potential accidents or hazards. The most appropriate signals to use in such a situation are to honk the horn and activate the hazard lights. Honking the horn alerts nearby drivers and pedestrians, while the flashing hazard lights serve as a clear visual warning, indicating a potential danger on the road. These actions can help increase awareness and give other road users sufficient time to react and proceed with caution. Question 35. Which type of hazardous materials should not be loaded in the same vehicle with animal and foodstuffs? A. Flammable liquids. B. Corrosive materials. C. Explosives. D. Poisons. The correct answer is D. Poisons. Animal and foodstuffs should not be transported in the same vehicle with poisons to prevent potential contamination or harm. This separation ensures the safety of both the cargo and the environment. Question 36. Is it accurate that you should slightly move the explosives to stabilize the load before separating two vehicles carrying explosives that have been in a collision? A. True. B. False. C. Partially true. D. Sometimes true. The correct answer is B. False. No, it is not true that you should move the explosives just enough to stabilize the load before pulling apart two vehicles carrying explosives that have been in a collision. Moving the explosives can increase the risk of ignition or further hazards. It's essential to follow specific safety protocols and guidelines when dealing with hazardous materials. Question 37. When the vehicle is loaded with a flammable liquid, how many feet away from the vehicle are you, as the driver, allowed to smoke? A. 25 feet. B. 50 feet. C. 100 feet. D. 200 feet. The correct answer is C. 100 feet. As the driver of a vehicle loaded with a flammable liquid, you are not permitted to smoke within 100 feet of the vehicle. This safety regulation is in place to minimize the risk of ignition or accidental fires, as flammable liquids can pose a significant hazard if exposed to an open flame or heat source like a cigarette. Question 38. The blank placard is a white triangle with a fish and an X through the fish. A. Toxic. B. Corrosive. C. Poison. D. Marine pollutant. The correct answer is D. Marine pollutant. Placards that are white triangles with X through the fish are used for any bulk package that is a pollutant of marine life. Question 39. Is it accurate that you should halt and inspect your tires at intervals of every 2 hours or 100 miles? A. True. B. False. C. Sometimes true. D. Partially true. The correct answer is A. True. Yes, it is true that for the safe transportation of hazardous materials, you should stop and check your tires every 2 hours or 100 miles to ensure their proper condition and mitigate the risk of potential issues while on the road. 40. What is not a professional driver's responsibility at the scene of an accident? A. Communicate with any media at the scene to ensure correct information is reported. B. Limit the spread of material only if safe to do so. C. Provide emergency responders with the shipping papers and emergency response information. D. Keep people away from the scene. The correct answer is A. Communicate with any media at the scene to ensure correct information is reported. In the event of an accident, the first step is to isolate and evacuate people away from hazardous material. The driver should limit the spread of the material as long as it is safe to do so. The driver should make sure that emergency responders are provided information needed in the shipping pacers and emergency response information. The driver should not speak with the media and instead focus on keeping the scene safe. Question 41. Identification numbers used to identify hazardous materials have how many digits? A. 4, B. 3, C. 5, D. 2. The correct answer is A. 4. Hazardous material. 4-digit identification numbers identify dangerous goods and hazardous substances. Identification numbers should never be abbreviated on shipping papers. Question 42. When transporting compressed gas, cylinders must blank. A. Be held upright or braced, laying flat down. B. In racks attached to the vehicle. C. In boxes that keep them from turning over. D. All the above. The correct answer is D. All the above. Platforms or cradles keep cylinders secure and in an upright position. Never drag or pull the cylinder horizontally. Cryogenic liquid is also included in the safety guidelines for transporting compressed gas. Question 43. How many sides of a vehicle placarded for hazardous material must display placards? A. 2, B. 4, C. 3, D. 5. The correct answer is B. 4. A vehicle carrying hazardous materials that require placards must have these placards displayed on all 4 sides of the vehicle. This ensures proper identification and communication of the hazardous nature of the cargo from all angles. Question 44. Is it accurate that the labels found on packages containing hazardous materials are diamond-shaped? A. True. B. False. C. Partially true. D. Sometimes true. The correct answer is A. True. Yes, the labels used to indicate hazardous materials on packages are typically diamond-shaped. These diamond-shaped labels contain information about the type of hazard the material poses, helping to communicate the potential risks associated with the contents of the package. Question 45. While conducting an en route inspection, what action should you take if you find an overheated tire? A. Continue driving but at a reduced speed. B. Sprinkle water on the tire to cool it down. C. Immediately stop and replace the tire. D. Remove the tire and place it far away from the vehicle. The correct answer is D. Remove the tire and place it far away from the vehicle. When you encounter an overheated tire during an en route inspection, the best course of action is to remove the tire from the vicinity of the vehicle. Placing it far away helps prevent any potential fire hazards and allows the tire to cool down safely. Question 46. What is required when dealing with packages of explosives? A. Wear a high-visibility vest for visibility. B. Have a fire extinguisher nearby at all times. C. Use proper handling and safety measures. D. Notify the nearest shipping office immediately. The correct answer is C. Use proper handling and safety measures. When handling packages of explosives, it is essential to follow proper handling and safety measures. Explosives are extremely dangerous materials that require careful attention to prevent accidents and ensure the safety of everyone involved. Using proper handling techniques includes following specific protocols for loading, unloading, and securing the packages, as well as taking necessary precautions to avoid impacts, shocks, or temperature fluctuations that could lead to detonation. Adhering to safety measures, such as using specialized equipment, wearing appropriate personal protective equipment, PPE, and maintaining a safe distance from other hazardous materials significantly reduces the risk of accidents and ensures the safe transportation and handling of explosives. Question 47. Where can regulated products be found listed? A. In the hazardous materials table only. B. In the regulated products table only. C. In both the hazardous materials table and the regulated products table. D. Regulated products are not listed in any specific tables. The correct answer is C. In both the hazardous materials table and the regulated products table. Regulated products are listed in 2 important tables: the hazardous materials table and the regulated products table. These tables are essential references for identifying and handling hazardous materials in accordance with regulations. It is crucial for drivers and handlers of hazardous materials to be aware of the contents of both tables to ensure compliance with safety protocols and regulations associated with these products. Question 48. When inhalation hazard appears on the shipping papers, what placards are required? A. Poison gas. B. Flammable gas. C. Toxic gas. D. Liquid gas. The correct answer is A. Poison gas. In addition to other placards, poison inhalation hazard or poison gas placards are to be used. Poison gas can cause serious harm or death if not treated according to regulations. Question 49. How many sides of a vehicle placarded for hazardous materials must display placards? A. 2. B. 3. C. 4. D. 5. The correct answer is C. 4. A vehicle carrying hazardous materials that require placards must have these placards displayed on all 4 sides of the vehicle. This ensures that the hazardous nature of the cargo is clearly communicated to other road users from all directions. Question 50. In order to pass the test for hazardous material endorsement on a CDL, you must know A. How to identify hazardous materials. B. Safely load shipments. C. Properly placard your vehicle in accordance with the rules. D. All the above. The correct answer is D. All the above. In order to pass the hazardous material endorsement test, you must answer at least 24 questions correctly. All information needed to pass the test is found in the Hazmat manual. Drivers must know how to recognize, handle, and transport hazardous materials. Question 51. Where are placards required to be displayed on a placarded vehicle? A. Only on the front and rear. B. Only on the rear and both sides. C. Only on the front, rear, and one side. D. On the front, rear, and both sides. The correct answer is D. On the front, rear, and both sides. For a placarded vehicle carrying hazardous materials, it is a requirement to display placards on the front, rear, and both sides of the vehicle. Placards are large, diamond-shaped signs that indicate the presence of hazardous materials and their respective hazard class. By placing placards on all these sides, it ensures that the hazardous nature of the cargo is easily identifiable from various angles, which is crucial for public safety and emergency response. Adhering to this regulation helps alert other drivers, emergency responders, and the general public to take appropriate precautions and responses when they encounter a hazardous materials transport vehicle on the road. Question 52. When does a symbol blank indicate materials may not be loaded, transported, or stored together in the same vehicle or stage facility? A. Highlighted. B. Italics. C. With an X. D. Both A and C. The correct answer is C. With an X. X is packing group I and is the highest degree of danger. An X indicates the materials marked may not be loaded, transported, or stored in the same vehicle or storage facility. Question 53. What is the maximum allowable total transport index of all packages in a single vehicle when transporting radioactive material? A. 1.0. B. 5.0. C. 10.0. D. It varies depending on the type of radioactive material. The correct answer is C. 10.0. When transporting radioactive material, the total transport index, TI, of all packages in a single vehicle must not exceed 10.0. The transport index is a measure of the radiation level at a specific distance from the external surface of the package. It ensures that the overall radiation exposure during transportation remains within safe limits for the public and those handling the packages. Question 54. Regarding refusing shipment of leaking packages, who holds the responsibilities for this action? A. The carrier company receiving the shipment. B. The shipper sending the hazardous materials. C. The local law enforcement at the destination. D. The receiver of the shipment. The correct answer is A. The carrier company receiving the shipment. The carrier company that receives the shipment holds the responsibilities for refusing packages that are leaking. It is the carrier's duty to inspect and ensure the safe transportation of hazardous materials. If any packages are found to be leaking or damaged, the carrier company must refuse the shipment and take appropriate actions to address the situation, such as contacting the shipper for repackaging or proper disposal. Question 55. Is it accurate that a shipment of hazardous materials is solely described by hazardous materials transportation papers? A. True. B. False. C. Partially true. D. Sometimes true. The correct answer is B. False. No. A shipment of hazardous materials is not exclusively described by hazardous materials transportation papers. While these papers provide essential information about the shipment, the proper labeling, placarding, and packaging of the materials also contribute to accurately describing and identifying the hazardous nature of the contents during transportation. Question 56. What is the maximum permissible total transport index for all packages in a single vehicle? A. 10. B. 25. C. 50. D. 75. The correct answer is C, 50. The highest allowable total transport index for all packages within a single vehicle is 50. This index accounts for the combined radioactivity of the transported materials and helps ensure safe handling and transportation. Question 57. What does it indicate when an entry on a shipping paper is bold, highlighted, or printed in another color? A. The item is non-hazardous and safe for transportation. B. Special handling instructions are required for the item. C. The item is exempt from shipping regulations. D. The entry is for administrative purposes only and has no significance. The correct answer is B. Special handling instructions are required for the item. When an entry on a shipping paper is bold, highlighted, or printed in another color, it signifies that special handling instructions are required for the item being transported. These visual cues draw attention to the specific entry, indicating that the material may have unique characteristics, hazards, or handling requirements that need to be strictly followed during transportation. Question 58. If a vehicle transporting explosives collides with an object, when is it safe to move the object away? A. After notifying the authorities. B. As soon as possible to clear the road. C. The explosives have been removed and placed at least 200 feet away. D. Once the vehicle is repaired. The correct answer is C. The explosives have been removed and placed at least 200 feet away. After a collision involving a vehicle carrying explosives, you must refrain from moving the struck object until the explosives have been removed and relocated at a safe distance of at least 200 feet. This measure helps minimize the risk of ignition or further danger. Question 59. What is the primary action to take during a hazardous materials emergency? A. Document the incident. B. Warn others of the danger. C. Evacuate the area immediately. D. Contact local news agencies. The correct answer is B. Warn others of the danger. During a hazardous materials emergency, the most crucial step is to warn others of the danger. This is essential for ensuring the safety of individuals in the vicinity. Alerting people to potential hazards enables them to take necessary precautions, helping to prevent exposure to hazardous materials and reducing the risk of harm. Question 60. When your vehicle contains explosives, oxidizers, or flammables, what is the minimum distance within which smoking is prohibited? A. 25 feet. B. 50 feet. C. 100 feet. D. 200 feet. The correct answer is B. 50 feet. When your vehicle is transporting explosives, oxidizers, or flammable materials, it is crucial to maintain safety measures to prevent potential accidents or fires. No one should smoke within a minimum distance of 50 feet from the vehicle. This restriction helps reduce the risk of ignition and keeps any potential sources of flames at a safe distance from the hazardous materials. Question 1. If a liquid poison is spilling from your vehicle, how should you safely channel the liquid if possible? A. Away from streams or sewers. B. Into a nearby storm drain. C. Towards a grassy area. D. Towards the nearest drainage system. The correct answer is A. Away from streams or sewers. In the event of a liquid poison spill, if it can be done safely, you should direct the spilled liquid away from streams or sewers to prevent contamination of water sources and potential environmental hazards. Question 2. The hazardous materials regulations have two main objectives: ensuring safe drivers and equipment and communicating the risk. What is the third objective? A. Minimizing the transportation cost of hazardous materials. B. Providing financial incentives for companies handling hazardous materials. C. Establishing guidelines for emergency response plans. D. Simplifying paperwork requirements for hazardous material shipments. The correct answer is C. Establishing guidelines for emergency response plans. The third intent of the hazardous materials regulations is to establish guidelines for emergency response plans. These regulations aim to ensure that appropriate measures are in place to handle and respond to hazardous materials incidents effectively. Emergency response plans provide a structured approach to dealing with accidents, spills, or other emergencies involving hazardous materials during transportation. Question 3. Is it accurate that the transport index indicates which hazardous materials in the load being transported require placards? A. True. B. False. C. Partially true. D. Sometimes true. The correct answer is B. False. No. The transport index does not determine which hazardous materials in the load require placards. The transport index is a value that indicates the degree of control needed during the transportation of radioactive materials. It does not directly relate to placarding requirements for hazardous materials. Question 4. What action should you take upon realizing a tire leak while transporting hazardous materials? A. Continue driving cautiously and monitor the leak. B. Speed up to reach your destination sooner. C. Stop immediately and replace the tire. D. Stop at the nearest safe place and fix it. The correct answer is D. Stop at the nearest safe place and fix it. If you detect a tire leak while carrying hazardous materials, it's essential to prioritize safety by stopping at the closest safe location and addressing the issue. Timely action can prevent potential accidents or hazards related to the leakage. Question 5. Shippers are required to confirm their compliance with regulations when packaging hazardous materials. Which circumstance constitutes an exception to this rule? A. If the shipment is intended for international delivery. B. When transporting hazardous materials by air. C. The shipper is a private carrier carrying their own product. D. If the shipment contains radioactive materials. The correct answer is C. The shipper is a private carrier carrying their own product. The exception to the rule of certifying compliance with packaging regulations occurs when the shipper is a private carrier transporting their own product. In this case, they are not required to provide the certification. Question 6. Which of the following actions should you avoid when transporting Division 1.1 or 1.2 explosives? A. Use a single vehicle with proper placarding. B. Store them alongside flammable materials. C. Transport them in a combination vehicle without placarding. D. Keep them separate from placarded tanks. The correct answer is C. Transport them in a combination vehicle without placarding. When transporting Division 1.1 or 1.2 explosives, it is essential to placard the vehicle properly to indicate the presence of hazardous materials. Transporting them in a combination vehicle without placarding would violate safety regulations and fail to inform others about the hazardous materials being transported. Question 7. What is a mandatory requirement when transporting chlorine in cargo tanks? A. A fire extinguisher on board. B. A hazardous materials endorsement on your driver's license. C. An emergency response guidebook in the cabin. D. A written route plan approved by the carrier. The correct answer is C. An emergency response guidebook in the cabin. When transporting chlorine in cargo tanks, it is a mandatory requirement to have an emergency response guidebook, ERG, in the cabin of the vehicle. The ERG provides essential information for drivers and first responders in the event of an emergency or incident involving the hazardous material being transported. It contains guidance on identifying the material, response procedures, and safety precautions to be taken. Question 8. An example of a Class 6 hazardous material is blank. A. Propane. B. Potassium cyanide. C. Ammunition. D. Battery fluid. The correct answer is B. Potassium cyanide. The name for Class 6 hazardous material is poison, toxic material. Infectious substances. Class 6 are classified as toxic substances. Materials under this code are liable to either cause death, serious injury, or harm to human health. The Class 6 placard is white, with black lettering with a picture of a skull. Question 9. When a vehicle is leaking hazardous material, the driver should blank. A. Move to an isolated area. B. Not move it any more than safety requires. C. Move it to a flat surface. D. Move 200 feet away from any buildings. The correct answer is B. Not move it any more than safety requires. Driver should not move a vehicle if it is leaking hazardous material. If the vehicle is moved, it will cause a larger area to be contaminated and increase danger for the driver, others, and the environment. Question 10. When a truck carrying explosives has an incident with another vehicle, the driver should blank. A. Place the explosive at least 200 feet away from the vehicle and occupied buildings. B. Use a fire extinguisher. C. Wait for emergency personnel. D. Cover explosives with tarp. The correct answer is A. Place the explosive at least 200 feet away from the vehicle and occupied buildings. Protection criteria is provided to minimize serious injury, loss of life, and damage of property. Placing explosives at least 200 feet away limits exposures and minimizes risks. Question 11. Who is responsible to know what permits are needed to haul a shipment of hazardous material? A. Carrier. B. The driver. C. The shipper. D. The receiver. The correct answer is B. The driver. States and counties may require drivers to obtain permits and follow certain routes when transporting hazardous material. It is the driver's responsibility to know the safest route to follow for the transport and what permits are needed. Question 12. What must the shipping paper for hazardous material include? A. A description of each hazardous product. B. Page numbers. C. A shipper's certification. D. All the above. The correct answer is D. All the above. If the shipping paper has more than one page, the total number of pages must be listed on the first page. The shipper certificate must be signed by the shipper, stating the shipment was prepared according to the rules. Shipping papers must also list an emergency response telephone number. Question 13. What does it mean when RQ is listed on shipping papers? A. Rejected quality. B. Required quality. C. Reportable quality. D. Refined quality. The correct answer is C. Reportable quality. In summary, when RQ is listed on shipping papers, it typically means that the quality of the shipment must be reported to relevant authorities or regulatory agencies, as per specific regulations or guidelines. Question 14. All except one are the responsibility of a driver transporting hazardous material. A. Make sure the shipper has identified, marked, and labeled the hazardous material properly. B. Placards his vehicle when loading if required. C. Certify on the shipping papers that the shipment has been prepared according to the rules. D. Check for leaking packages. The correct answer is C. Certify on the shipping papers that the shipment has been prepared according to the rules. The shipper is responsible to certify that the shipment is in accordance with the HMR. The certification must be signed by a principal officer, partner, or employee of the shipper. Even though the shipper is responsible to certify shipping papers, the driver must confirm paperwork and packages are ready for delivery. Question 15. What should a transporter do if a leaking package is discovered? A. Put the package in another sealed package and add a new label. B. Notify the shipper to patch the leak so it is safe to ship. C. Keep it separate from other packages. D. Refuse to transport the package. The correct answer is D. Refuse to transport the package. Leaking packages can put the driver and others in danger. If a driver discovers leaking hazardous material after it has been loaded, the driver must do one of the following: repair the damaged material and transport it to the nearest place for safe disposal. Place the damaged package in a salvage drum and transport to its destination, or return to the shipper. Store the damaged package until the final disposition can be made. Question 16. Is it permissible for you, as a driver, to transport hazardous materials without having a hazardous materials endorsement on your CDL, commercial driver's license? A. Yes, you can transport hazardous materials without an endorsement. B. No, you must have a hazardous materials endorsement on your CDL to transport hazardous materials. C. Yes, but only if the hazardous materials are in small quantities. D. No, but you can transport hazardous materials if you have a regular driver's license. The correct answer is B. No, you must have a hazardous materials endorsement on your CDL to transport hazardous materials. To transport hazardous materials legally, you must possess a hazardous materials endorsement on your commercial driver's license, CDL. This endorsement indicates that you have undergone specialized training and have been certified to handle and transport hazardous materials safely. Operating a vehicle carrying hazardous materials without the required endorsement is a violation of regulations and can result in penalties and legal consequences. Question 17. What class number hazardous material is helium? A. 2, B. 5, C. 1, D. 7. The correct answer is A. 2. Helium is a class 2 hazardous material. Some hazards of high-level exposure to helium are headache, dizziness, and lightheadedness to suffocation from lack of oxygen. Some other examples of Class 2 hazardous materials are propane and compressed fluorine. Question 18. What is the required placarding for a vehicle carrying 500 pounds each of explosive A and B according to federal law? A. Explosive placard only. B. Explosive placard and Class 1 placard. C. Class 1 placard only. D. No placarding required. The correct answer is B. Explosive placard and Class 1 placard. According to federal law, a vehicle carrying 500 pounds each of explosive A and B must be placarded with both an explosive placard and a Class 1 placard. The Class 1 placard indicates the primary hazard class of explosives, while the explosive placard provides more specific information about the type of explosives being transported. Placarding is essential for communicating the presence of hazardous materials to other drivers, emergency responders, and the general public, ensuring they are aware of the potential risks and can take necessary precautions. By complying with the placarding requirements, the vehicle operator helps maintain safety standards and regulatory compliance during the transportation of hazardous materials. Question 19. Forbidden materials listed on the materials table blank. A. Pose too great a risk for some modes of transportation. B. Require 8 placards. C. Require special handling. D. Must be transported by ground. The correct answer is A. Pose too great a risk for some modes of transportation. A shipper is responsible to classify forbidden materials, and carriers should know when to look for when accepting the shipment for transportation. Forbidden materials could result in a catastrophic hazmat incident. Question 20. What is a requirement for transporting Class A and B explosives concerning the floor liner of the vehicle? A. A rubber floor liner not less than 1/8 of an inch thick. B. A plastic floor liner not less than 1/16 of an inch thick. C. A wooden floor liner not less than 1/16 of an inch thick. D. A steel floor liner not less than 1/16 of an inch thick. The correct answer is D. A steel floor liner not less than 1/16 of an inch thick. The transportation of Class A and B explosives necessitates a steel floor liner that is not less than 1/16 of an inch thick. This steel liner provides additional protection and containment for the vehicle's floor, enhancing safety during the transportation of explosive materials. Steel is chosen for its strength and resistance to damage, ensuring that the vehicle's floor can withstand potential impacts and reduce the risk of accidents or incidents involving the explosives. Question 21. Where does the class of the hazardous material appear on a hazardous material placard? A. Top left corner. B. Bottom right corner. C. Center of the placard. D. Along the edges of the placard. The correct answer is C. Center of the placard. The class of the hazardous material appears in the center of the hazardous material placard. The placard is a diamond-shaped label used to identify the type of hazardous material being transported. In the center of the placard, a numerical code representing the class or division of the hazardous material is displayed. This code is vital for quickly identifying the type of hazard present and taking appropriate precautions. Question 22. Battery fluid is listed under what class of hazardous material? A. 1. B. 4. C. 8. D. 9. The correct answer is C. 8. Battery fluid is hazardous class 8 corrosives. The placard used for battery fluid is white and black, with a picture of corrosive fluid on hand and pipe, with the number code 2794. Battery fluid can cause eye damage, temporary loss of vision or blindness, skin irritation or burning. If inhaled, battery fluid can cause nose and throat irritation with coughing and shortness of breath. Question 23. Placards are blank-shaped. A. Triangle. B. Diamond. C. Circle. D. Square. The correct answer is B. Diamond. Placards are diamond-shaped and include information such as danger class number, danger symbol, and a colored background. Every package with hazardous material is required to have a placard. Question 24. What is the minimum distance you must maintain between your parked vehicle and an open flame? A. 25 feet. B. 50 feet. C. 75 feet. D. 100 feet. The correct answer is D. 100 feet. When parking your vehicle, it is essential to ensure a safe distance from any open flame. You must not park within 100 feet of an open flame. This safety measure helps prevent potential fire hazards and reduces the risk of accidents or explosions, especially when transporting hazardous materials or flammable cargo. Question 25. What type of extinguisher is required for placarded vehicles? A. 10BC. B. 5A. C. C. D. AC. The correct answer is A. 10BC. Fire extinguishers for placarded vehicles must be UL certified and able to be used for 10 square feet of Class B fires. Checking fire extinguishers is an important part of a pre-trip inspection so it can be ready in the event of an emergency. Fire extinguishers should be checked to make sure they are properly rated, filled to the green with an up-to-date inspection. Question 26. When should tires be checked for proper inflation? A. Beginning of each trip. B. The end of the trip. C. Every time the vehicle is parked. D. A and C. The correct answer is D. A and C. Using a tire pressure gauge is the only acceptable way to check for proper inflation. Tires that do not have the correct pressure can deteriorate and become a hazard. Tire tread should also be checked to prevent a blowout or leak. Question 27. What is a requirement when transporting chlorine in cargo tanks? A. An emergency kit for controlling leaks and fittings on the cover plate. B. An emergency escape ladder. C. A first aid kit. D. A portable restroom facility. The correct answer is A. An emergency kit for controlling leaks and fittings on the cover plate. When transporting chlorine in cargo tanks, it is necessary to have an emergency kit for controlling leaks and fittings on the cover plate. This kit is essential for promptly addressing leaks and preventing the release of hazardous materials, contributing to the overall safety of the transportation process. Question 28. All except one are ways shippers warn drivers and others about material hazards. A. Hazard warning labels on packages. B. Emergency response information and placards. C. Proper shipping papers. D. Caution warning labels. The correct answer is D. Caution warning labels. Hazard warning labels and placards are used to identify the material being transported and their potential hazards. Placards are used to warn others and put on the outside of a vehicle and on bulk packages. Emergency response information must include the immediate hazard and other risks, and what immediate precautions to take in the event of an accident. Drivers must make sure emergency response information is easily accessible in the event of an accident. 29. What guidebook is used by emergency personnel as a reference on how to protect themselves and others from hazardous materials? A. Class Hazards Guidebook. B. DMV First Responders Guidebook. C. Emergency Response Guidebook. D. Hazardous Material Guidebook. The correct answer is C. Emergency Response Guidebook. The Emergency Response Guidebook is indexed by proper shipping name and hazardous materials identified number. It is vital that proper shipping name, ID number and label, and placards are correct. Question 30. What is the required validity period for a driver's certificate of radioactive materials training? A. 1 year. B. 2 years. C. 3 years. D. 5 years. The correct answer is C. 3 years. A driver's certificate of radioactive materials training must be valid for a period of 3 years. This means that after completing the training and obtaining the certificate, the driver is authorized to transport radioactive materials for a duration of 3 years from the date of issuance. Once the certificate reaches its expiration date, the driver must undergo a retraining session and obtain a new valid certificate to continue transporting radioactive materials legally. Question 31. Which of the following shipping paper descriptions is correct? A. All the shipping paper descriptions are accurate. B. None of the shipping paper descriptions are accurate. C. Only one of the shipping paper descriptions is accurate. D. Multiple shipping paper descriptions are accurate. The correct answer is C. Only one of the shipping paper descriptions is accurate. Among the provided shipping paper descriptions, only one of them is correct. The other descriptions may contain errors or inaccuracies. This question emphasizes the need for careful attention and accuracy when preparing shipping papers for hazardous materials, as any incorrect information could lead to safety risks and regulatory violations. Question 32. When stopping at a railroad crossing, how close to the nearest rail should a driver stop? A. 25 feet. B. 15 to 50 feet. C. 20 to 30 feet. D. 10 to 15 feet. The correct answer is B. 15 to 50 feet. Drivers should stop at railroads if their vehicle is placarded, carrying chlorine, or has cargo tanks. Trucks should stop 15 to 50 feet before the railroad tracks, and never shift gears while crossing the tracks. Question 33. What should you do if you discover a hazardous material leak or spill while transporting it on the highway? A. Immediately stop the vehicle, park it in a safe location, and notify authorities. B. Attempt to clean up the spill yourself. C. Continue driving until you reach your destination. D. Call your supervisor and wait for further instructions. The correct answer is A. Immediately stop the vehicle, park it in a safe location, and notify authorities. If you discover a hazardous material leak or spill while transporting it on the highway, immediately stop your vehicle in a safe location and notify authorities. Attempting to clean up the spill yourself is not recommended, as it can be dangerous and cause further harm. Continuing to drive could also put you and others on the road at risk. Contacting your supervisor is important but not your first priority in this situation. Question 34. What information is essential to determine the placard to use on your vehicle? A. The vehicle's color and size. B. The weight of the hazardous material being transported. C. The name of the shipping company. D. The hazardous materials identification number and class. The correct answer is D. The hazardous materials identification number and class. To determine the appropriate placard to use on your vehicle, you must know the hazardous materials identification number and class. Placards are used to identify the type of hazardous material being transported and to alert others to the potential hazards associated with the cargo. The identification number and class are critical pieces of information needed to correctly identify the specific hazardous material and ensure compliance with hazardous materials regulations during transportation. Question 35. What does the presence of a W in the initial column of the hazardous materials table signify? A. Waste materials subject to special handling. B. Water shipment that are not a RQ, reportable quantity. C. Warning for potential explosive content. D. Weather-related restrictions for transport. The correct answer is B. Water shipment that are not a RQ, reportable quantity. And W, in the first column of the hazardous materials table, indicates that the entry pertains to water shipments that are not considered a reportable quantity RQ, which determines the minimum quantity of a hazardous substance that triggers specific regulatory requirements. Question 36. Do containment rules guide drivers on loading, transporting, and unloading bulk tanks of hazardous materials? A. True. B. False. C. Partially true. D. Sometimes true. The correct answer is B. False. No, containment rules do not encompass all aspects of loading, transporting, and unloading bulk tanks of hazardous materials. While they provide instructions on preventing leaks and spills, these rules do not comprehensively cover the entire process from start to finish. Question 37. Placards must be placed at least blank inches from other markers. A. 7. B. 9. C. 5. D. 3. The correct answer is D. 3. Placards must always be 3 inches away from any other markers. Advertisements should be far enough away to reduce the effectiveness of warning markers. Question 38. Is it accurate that when transporting hazardous waste, you are obligated to sign and possess a uniform hazardous waste manifest? A. True. B. False. C. Partially true. D. Sometimes true. The correct answer is A. True. Yes, it is true that when transporting hazardous waste, you must sign and carry a uniform hazardous waste manifest. This manifest provides essential information about the hazardous waste being transported, ensuring proper tracking and documentation throughout the transportation process. Question 39. Hazardous materials employers are required to keep record of training for their employees for blank days. A. 365 days. B. 30 days. C. 90 days. D. 60 days. The correct answer is C. 90 days. It is important for employers to keep detailed records of training to reduce and eliminate hazards for their employees. These records will be reviewed in an event of an incident. Question 40. Is it accurate that the most crucial marking on a package is the name of the hazardous material? A. True. B. False. C. Partially true. D. Sometimes true. The correct answer is A. True. Yes, it is true that the name of the hazardous material is one of the most critical markings on a package. Properly identifying the hazardous material's name helps convey its nature and associated risks, ensuring that those handling and transporting the package are well informed and can take appropriate safety precautions. Question 41. What document must carriers provide to each driver responsible for transporting Division 1.1 or Division 1.2 materials? A. A copy of the vehicle registration. B. A copy of FMCSR, Part 397. C. A detailed map of the transport route. D. A list of emergency contact numbers. The correct answer is B. A copy of FMCSR, Part 397. Carriers are obligated to provide each driver handling Division 1.1 or Division 1.2 materials with a copy of FMCSR, Part 397. This regulation covers the requirements and guidelines for the transportation of hazardous materials, ensuring that drivers are equipped with the necessary information for safe transportation. Question 42. How long does a carrier have to make a detailed written report after an incident? A. 24 hours. B. 30 days. C. 1 week. D. 48 hours. The correct answer is B. 30 days. A detailed written report should be made within 30 days of an incident. The report should provide fundamental information, any damages or injuries, affected individuals, identify witnesses, and the action taken. The carrier must include his name, address, phone number, and employer. Question 43. What should you do to determine if a shipment contains a hazardous product? A. Check the shipment's weight and dimensions. B. Inspect the shipment for any damages. C. Review the shipping documents and labels. D. Contact the shipping company for confirmation. The correct answer is C. Review the shipping documents and labels. To identify whether a shipment includes a hazardous product, you should review the shipping documents and labels. The shipping documents, such as the bill of lading or shipping manifest, will specify the contents of the shipment and indicate if any hazardous materials are included. Additionally, Labels and placards on the packaging will provide clear visual cues regarding the presence of hazardous substances. Familiarizing yourself with the information on shipping documents and labels is essential for ensuring proper handling, storage, and transportation of hazardous materials. By following this procedure, you can take appropriate safety precautions and adhere to regulatory requirements related to the transportation of hazardous products. Question 44. When is it required to call the National Response Center? A. When someone is killed. B. There is property damage that exceeds $50,000. C. An injured person requires hospitalization. D. All the above. The correct answer is D. All the above. The National Response Center is staffed 24 hours a day and is a federal point of contact. All oil, chemical, biological, radiological discharges that exceed $50,000 in damages are required to be reported to the National Response Center. Question 45. What special equipment is needed when transporting chlorine? A. Approved gas mask and emergency kit. B. A placard that displays the UN number for chlorine. C. Rubber boots. D. Chemical burn kit. The correct answer is A. Approved gas mask and emergency kit. Exposure to low levels of chlorine can cause irritation to eyes, nose, and throat. Higher level exposure can be dangerous and cause changes in breathing rate, coughing, and damage to the lungs. The gas mask and emergency kits can help protect from exposure and should be located in the vehicle and easily accessible. Question 46. Who is responsible for checking shipping papers for accuracy? A. Driver. B. Carrier. C. Shipper. D. All the above. The correct answer is D. All the above. It is important for everyone involved in the transportation of hazardous materials to be alert and conscientious to always check paperwork and materials for inconsistencies and hazards. Do not assume someone else took care of an order accurately and always be vigilant. Question 47. Is it accurate that a driver transporting chlorine in cargo tanks is required to have an approved gas mask in the vehicle? A. True. B. False. C. Partially true. D. Sometimes true. The correct answer is A. True. Yes, it is true that a driver transporting chlorine in cargo tanks is obligated to have an approved gas mask in the vehicle. This safety measure helps the driver protect themselves in case of a hazardous material leak or release during transportation. Question 48. Where should you store your shipping papers containing information about hazardous materials? A. In the glove compartment. B. Under the driver's seat. C. In a pouch under the passenger seat. D. On the dashboard. The correct answer is C. In a pouch under the passenger seat. Shipping papers containing details about hazardous materials must be kept in a pouch specifically designed for this purpose, and it should be placed under the passenger seat. This practice ensures that the important documents are easily accessible to the driver and can be quickly presented to authorities or emergency responders if needed. Storing the papers securely in a designated pouch helps maintain organization and prevents them from getting lost or damaged during transit. Keeping the shipping papers in a pouch under the passenger seat is a safe and compliant way to have them readily available when transporting hazardous materials. Question 49. What is an example of a Class 1 hazardous material? A. Propane. B. Gasoline. C. Ammunition. D. Uranium. The correct answer is C. Ammunition. Ammunition is a Class 1 explosive. Class 1 hazardous materials are explosives, devices, or chemicals that are designed to explode or combust. They are highly regulated due to the risks of damage and loss of life. Question 50. How often should you conduct inspections on your dual tires while transporting hazardous materials? A. Every 2 hours or 100 miles. B. Whenever you stop for meals. C. Every 3 hours or 150 miles. D. Once a day during daylight hours. The correct answer is A. Every 2 hours or 100 miles. When transporting hazardous materials, it is essential to regularly inspect your dual tires to ensure their integrity and safety. The recommended interval is every 2 hours or 100 miles as per regulations to prevent potential tire-related issues during transit. Question 51. Is it true that a driver must have received specialized training within the past 2 years before transporting flammable cryogenic liquids? A. True. B. False. C. Sometimes true. D. Partially true. The correct answer is A. True. Yes, it is true that before transporting flammable cryogenic liquids, a driver must have undergone special training within the last 2 years. This training ensures that the driver is equipped with the necessary knowledge and skills to handle and transport such hazardous materials safely. Question 52. During the fueling process of a placarded vehicle, what is the required action that must always be observed? A. Standing inside the vehicle cabin. B. Holding the placards in hand. C. Monitoring the fuel gauge continuously. D. Attending the fueling nozzle at all times. The correct answer is D. Attending the fueling nozzle at all times. When fueling a placarded vehicle, it is essential that someone is always attending the fueling nozzle. This safety measure helps prevent spills, overflows, and ensures prompt action in case of emergencies during the fueling process. It is necessary to stay alert and ready to stop the fuel flow immediately if any issues arise. Question 53. Is it correct that Class 6 poisons must be transported in containers with interconnectors? A. True. B. False. C. Partially true. D. Sometimes true. The correct answer is B. False. No, it is not true that Class 6 poisons must be transported in containers with interconnectors. Interconnectors are typically required for transporting bulk liquids, but the specific requirements for transporting Class 6 poisons may vary based on hazardous materials regulations and the specific characteristics of the substance being transported. Question 54. Is it correct that the shipper is the party responsible for reporting an accident involving hazardous materials to the appropriate government agency? A. True. B. False. C. Partially true. D. Sometimes true. The correct answer is B. False. No, it is not the shipper's responsibility to report accidents involving hazardous materials. The duty of reporting such accidents falls on the carrier or operator of the vehicle transporting the hazardous materials, and they must promptly communicate the incident to the appropriate government agency as required by hazardous materials regulations. Question 55. The proper description of hazardous materials does not include blank. A. ID number. B. The name of the hazardous materials in italics. C. Hazard division or class. D. All the above. The correct answer is B. The name of the hazardous materials in italics. The basic description of hazardous materials include the identification number, the correct shipping name, the hazard class, and the packing group. This information is stated in the shipping paper in the correct order required. Question 56. Is it correct that you are required to stop 50 to 100 feet before the nearest rail of a railroad crossing when driving a placarded vehicle? A. True. B. False. C. Partially true. D. Sometimes true. The correct answer is B. False. No, it is not accurate that you must stop 50 to 100 feet before the nearest rail of a railroad crossing when driving a placarded vehicle. Placarded vehicles are required to stop a greater distance away from the railroad crossing, usually within 15 to 50 feet, to ensure safe clearance and prevent potential accidents involving hazardous materials. Question 57. Not following federal regulations related to hazardous materials can result in A. A warning. B. Loss of time. C. Fines. D. Fines and imprisonment. The correct answer is D. Fines and imprisonment. Following federal regulations help protect people and the environment. A driver could face up to 2 years of jail or a $50,000 fine for illegally transporting hazardous material. Question 58. What is true about stopped vehicle signals while transporting hazardous materials? A. Never use flares. B. Reflective triangles can be used. C. Red electric lights can be used. D. All the above. The correct answer is D. All the above. Flares can be dangerous around hazardous materials, especially flammable gas, flammable liquids, and explosives. Reflective triangles or red electric lights should be placed as follows. 1 signal 100 feet. In front of the vehicle, 1 signal 10 feet. Behind the vehicle, and 1 signal 100 feet behind the vehicle in the case of a breakdown. Question 59. Which of the options below provides the accurate sequence for describing a hazardous material on shipping papers? A. Hydrogen bromide, non-flammable gas, UN1048. B. UN1048. Hydrogen bromide, non-flammable gas. C. Non-flammable gas, hydrogen bromide, UN1048. D. UN1048. Non-flammable gas, hydrogen bromide. Correct answer is A. Hydrogen bromide, non-flammable gas, UN1048. The correct sequence for describing a hazardous material on shipping papers is proper shipping name, e.g., hydrogen bromide, hazard class or division, e.g., non-flammable gas, and UN identification number, e.g., UN1048. Question 60. On the shipping papers, which information should be listed first for a hazardous product? The hazard class, the identification number, or its proper shipping name? A. Hazard class. B. Identification number. C. Proper shipping name. D. It can vary based on the type of hazardous product. The correct answer is C. Proper shipping name. When providing the basic description of a hazardous product on shipping papers, the proper shipping name must be listed first. This is a critical piece of information that accurately identifies the specific hazardous material being transported. The proper shipping name is essential for proper handling and emergency response measures in case of any incidents during transportation. While the hazard class and identification number are also crucial details, they should follow the proper shipping name on the shipping papers.